Does your pool table have unsightly dents or dings or gouges, scratches, any kind of superficial damage like that? Or are you in the process of refinishing your pool table and it has those gouges and everything in there and you want to know, well, how do I get rid of them? Well, in this video, that's what I'm going to show you, at least part of it anyway. So stick around and I'll show you the tools, products and techniques that I use to touch up pool tables. Stick around. Let's face it, once a pool table gets to be a few years old, it's gonna have some battle scars. You know, your buddies get together and somebody gets a little rambunctious and all of a sudden, boom, you got a dent in your pool table. Well, I'm not going to show you how to do dents per se, dents and dings, not in this video. That'll be the next video that I go to do. But in this video, we're going to show you how to actually take care of the more severe damage, which is going to be scratches and gouges that happen. Now, I need to preface this video by saying you need to go into doing touch-up, understanding the limitations of touch-up work and your own limitations as far as skill is concerned with touching up a table. Touching up woodwork in general. Now, the reason why this video has taken me so long to get uploaded is because I've been waiting on this, okay? Now, this is actually a leg from a pool table that had gotten shipped in. It was one that a customer purchased online, and there was some shipping damage to the legs. And the company that sold the pool table, they shipped out a brand new set of legs, and I ended up with the damaged set. As you can see, not really too bad on this one. But one of the other legs had some pretty severe damage on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some damage on this and we're going to go ahead and touch it up. But again, we need to go into this understanding that this is touch up. And if all you're doing is going in and touching up something that you're not planning on refinishing, touch up is going to mask the issues. It's not going to make it disappear. And let's face it, the damage is there. And the best that you can ever hope for is to make it unnoticeable. You may get lucky and make it completely disappear, but the best you can ever really hope for is to make it unnoticeable. And look, I had a furniture restoration shop, and that's when we were doing just touch-up work on a pool table or on furniture or on a piano, look, that's what our goal was. Make it unnoticeable. When we were refinishing, starting from scratch, where we stripped off all of the old finish, well, then we could do a lot more to make it disappear by using toners and then coming back over it with a top coat of lacquer that was going to be level across the whole thing. So we could always make the sheen completely, make that repair, the sheen on that repair, completely invisible because it matched everything else all around. And that's one of the biggest issues that you're going to run into with touch-up on pre-existing stuff where, you know, it's pre-finished, you're not refinishing it. One of the biggest issues you're going to run into is trying to match the sheen, the amount of light that gets reflected off of the piece. It's going to reflect differently from the original to the repair. The repair is going to reflect it back differently. Again, when you're refinishing the entire piece, the whole thing gets coated out in that new lacquer and then the sheen actually blends in. So now that you know that the limitations and what the objective should be, which is to make it less noticeable, let's put some damage on this table and let's see how unnoticeable we can make it. Now, I said from the onset of this video that I'm not going to get into dents and dings. those are handled differently, and on something that's already finished out, you're not really going to be able to take care of any kind of dents in a piece unless you start getting more invasive. I will do part 2 of, or part 3 of this video series, where I do get into how to take care of dents and dings. But for right now on this video, I want to show big gouges and scratches. So we're going to start off, we're going to put some damage on this leg. And let me zoom you in here so you can see what it is I'm doing, and tilt you. A little bit tighter in. Okay, that's good. So we're going to take our knife and we're going to put oh, that's a good gouge right there. Okay, right on the corner. Oh, back that up. Right on the corner. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a big gouge right here in the top. This may take me a second. This is actually kind of hard wood on here, and it doesn't particularly like to cut. Oh, by the way, if you saw the thumbnail for this video, that was actually the table for this leg. All right, there's us a good bit of damage right there on top. That's a big gouge right there. And then we're going to do 2 other things. We're going to put a scratch. There we go. There's a scratch in it. Can you see that right there? That scratch. Let's move this over into the camera. See that scratch right there? Okay, we're going to touch up that scratch and again try to make it less noticeable. And then we're also going to put a scratch, oh, say right here on the side. And again, this is the typical kind of damage that you're going to find on an older pool table. You're going to find gouges like this, like these 2 here, and you're going to find scratches like this. Typically what you'll find is scratches like this one on top of the rail, and you might find scratches like this, or we can actually, there is one other bit of damage that we're going to do, and that is where the finish is just worn away. So let's simulate a worn away finish right there as well. Now there's really no wood missing here, but the finish itself is gone. Nothing there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things that we're going to touch up here. Before we start with that, let's start talking about the products that we're going to use. First thing you're going to need is going to be Bondo. Now I have 2 different types of Bondo here, and I get asked this question quite a bit. What kind of Bondo should I be using? I see all kinds of different kinds of Bondo, or at least 3 different kinds of Bondo. We've got regular automotive Bondo, we've got Bondo glass, and then there's a homeowner's type Bondo for touching up things around the house. Well, the one thing we don't want to use is Bondo glass. This actually has fibers of fiberglass, or fiberglass fibers mixed into this already. And this is going to be really specialized use here. You wouldn't use this for doing this kind of work here, and you definitely wouldn't be using this to seam slates. So we're going to put the Bondo glass off to the side. Now, here is the regular automotive body filler, Bondo. The difference between automotive and home use is one thing: the color of the hardener. Now, if you look right here, you can see that this hardener here is red, okay? The only difference, the only real difference between automotive and home use Bondo is the color of the hardener. This one's red, home use is white, for whatever reason. but this is the Bondo we're going to use. Next thing we're going to need is a product by Mohawk Finishes, and it is Blendall powders. These Blendall powders are fantastic, okay? These powders, you can get them in just about any color under the sun. But you're usually going to be ordering them online, and, you know, the color that shows up for me for medium maple might look different on the computer screen than what it actually comes out on here. And so what you're really going to want is a variety of colors. That way you can mix and match. Now, I'm not going to get into, again, this is another caveat with this video, I am not going to get into color theory. I will leave a link down below to a video that I think does a really good job at explaining how to mix colors and how to, you know, get the color that you're looking for. But I am not going to get into color theory. That's way too long and way too in-depth for the purposes of this video. If you want to learn it, I would suggest that you follow the link down below and watch that video and practice before you start trying to touch up your woodworking. Next thing we're going to need is going to be some lacquer. Now, I have right here, I have a pre-catalyzed clear lacquer. I also have a lacquer-based toner. Now, this one is in brown cherry. I have a glaze in white. Now, I don't have white Blendall powders, so I'm going to use the white glaze in the place of Blendall powders for there to get the white, because believe it or not, this has white in it. If you can't get your hands on the Mohawk lacquers, you will be able to get your hands on the Blendall powders. You might not be able to get your hands on the blend or the lacquers. So what you can do is you can go to Home Depot and you can pick up a product called Deft. Now, Deft is, again, clear nitrocellulose lacquer. Works fantastic for doing touch-ups. Your Blendall powders will dissolve in just about anything. They will dissolve in lacquer. In lacquer-based products, they will dissolve in mineral spirits or naphtha-based products. Naphtha, however you pronounce it. It'll dissolve in it. I do believe this stuff will even dissolve in water. And you know what? It'll even dissolve in Bondo, because I've used it to tint the color of Bondo. Premix it and use it on repairs so that I can, you know, kind of get that color, get a jump start on that color. We need those, our lacquers, we need our Blendall powders, we need our Bondo. We're going to need at least a couple of different sandpapers. Now, what I have here, I've got some 60 grit, 60 grit here, and I have some 150 grit. You can go up to, I'd say, as fine as about 340, 320, 340 grit paper. I also have some artist's brushes, and, you know, fine artist brushes. This one's a little bit on the big side, but it'll do for touching up this stuff. I have a palette knife. Now, this is an artist's palette knife here. You don't necessarily have to have one of these. You can use just a regular stick, okay? Because we're going to be mixing up very small amounts of Bondo to do this. And let's see, what else? We also need some cups. So, and these are, I got these at one of the local party supply places, Jello shot cups. And then one other thing, yes, we need some paper. Couple of pieces of paper. And this is just brown paper I use for packaging material. They sell this at Home Depot. I just use a couple of these because they make good pallets. You can also use this for, it's masking paper. You can use it for masking off places that you don't want to get lacquer on when you're doing touch-up. So, there's our products. So let's get into the actual repair now. Move this stuff out of the way. We need our hardener, we need our Bondo, we need our palette knife, and we need our paper. So we're going to go ahead and open up our Bondo, and we are going to go with very, very small amounts of Bondo. Now, this is how much I'm using. And just so you know how little this is, that's my thumb, smaller than my thumb. It's even smaller than my pinky, okay? And it's just just a little bit on there. If I were to weigh this out, it would weigh less than a quarter. Maybe the weight of 2 nickels, okay? When you're working with Bondo, a couple of tips for working with Bondo. Number one, the slower this stuff dries, the better. Less likely to crack, and the thinner you put this stuff on, the better. So it's better to put Bondo on these bits of damage, better to put it on in smaller increments and build it up over multiple passes rather than try to gob it on there all at once and sand down. That's not what you want to do. So this is how much Bondo hardener we actually use. It's a very, very minute amount. And we'll go ahead and we'll mix that into our Bondo. Get that mixed in here. There we go. And we're going to try to keep it small. Again, keeping all this small, you want to try your absolute best to keep the area of repair as small as possible. These repairs like this have a tendency to grow. The more you work on it, the more you sand on it, the bigger it seems to want to get. So you want to keep this area relatively small. All right, that is good for that one. And since we're here, let's tighten you up on here and turn you a little bit. And we're going to do this top repair right here. And again, keeping your Bondo, try to keep your Bondo from going outside of the repair area. It's going to be hard to do, but if you're really careful, maybe even a little more careful than what I'm being here, you can do it. Now, one suggestion for you, if you do get overage, come in and wipe it up with your finger like that and get rid of your excess on both sides. And just clean it up a little bit. Do the same thing down here. And try to confine our Bondo to just the repair area. That's good. Now, when we come back, that's good. When we come back, we'll go ahead and we'll sand these out. And we'll see what we've got. Okay, one of the nice things about using your paper and mixing up a bit of extra Bondo is that you can actually use this Bondo down here on your paper to figure out how hard this Bondo is up here. So again, really simple. You take your fingers and you just kind of touch it in. And if it's still wet, it'll stick to your fingers. And as it hardens, there's a chemical reaction that's going on here. And as it hardens, well, it's it'll get harder and harder and less sticky. And what we're shooting for right this moment is we want this Bondo to get to be about the consistency of Velveeta cheese. Maybe a touch harder than Velveeta cheese. And while we're waiting for that, we can go ahead and prep our sandpaper. We don't need much. Very small pieces of sandpaper. These are small areas. We're going to go with small pieces of sandpaper. This is probably like, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 1.25 by maybe 3/4 of an inch. Okay. And we're going to fold that in half, and that's our sanding for the 60 grit sandpaper. Yep, our Bondo is now starting to firm up. Give that a couple more minutes. And we'll go ahead and we'll take our piece of 150 grit paper here, and we're going to cut off, again, I'm going to tear off a little bitty piece of this too. Are we there yet? It's pretty close. Now I can take my palette knife, I can still go in and I can cut this Bondo, but it's not really sticking anymore to my palette knife. I can cut it off, but it's not liquid anymore like it was. So once it firms up enough, again, let's tighten you up in here. Once it firms up enough, is this going to focus? There we go. All we're going to do is we're going to take our 150 grit paper and we are going to start lightly, and I mean lightly, going over this area and trying to take down all of the high spots on this Bondo. Again, we're not trying to fill all of this in. We're not trying to have it perfect right off the bat, because we're going to put a second coat on this, maybe even a third, to level this out and get it. By the time we get to that third coat, then we'll have it perfect. So now that's still really rough. Again, we'll sand it down a bit more. Now what we're looking for here when we're sanding, we want the exact shape of the damage is what we want to see here. We don't want to see Bondo all around outside of where that damage was. So clean that off. Any Bondo that's on our finished area, we're going to scrape that off with our fingernail. Get that nice and clean. Do the same thing to this front side right here. All the way around. Okay. Now we'll go back into it. We're going to, right at this moment, we kind of want this a little bit low. This first coat that we're putting on here, you know, is really just to fill in the majority of the damage, the missing wood. A little bit more. I want this, like I said, a little bit on the low side. I want it low. And then you can always put more. Okay, we got that. Let's move this back a little bit. And now let's work on this top piece. Again, same thing. Very lightly. I'm going to start removing the excess Bondo here, and we want this to be, again, a little low. We're not trying to fill all of this in one shot. And you're not trying to sand out around the area. You want to sand just the Bondo. Because the more you sand, the bigger your repair area gets. The more outside the repair area you sand, the bigger the repair area gets. All right, we're still just a little bit high on the back side here, right in here. Bring that down a little lower. All right, there we go. Pretty close. Yeah, that's a little on the low side now. Now we'll go around again with our fingernail. I'm going to try to get as much of this overage of Bondo, try to get that off. All right, there we go. Right there. Now we're ever so slightly low, and the same thing with this. Now what we're going to do, we're going to mix up some more Bondo. Trying to confine our repairs, confine our application of Bondo to just the repairs. And it's inevitable. You're going to get a little bit of overage, but that's okay too. My shaky hands don't help much with this, you know that? There we go. That's there. Now let's do the same thing up here. Very small amounts of Bondo. I'm going to try to smooth this out a little bit. Maybe add just a touch more, because we might be able to do this in 2 passes. A little bit more right in there. See a little bit of a low spot right there. There we go. There we go. Now this is set up pretty good now. We're gonna hit the high parts of it with our 60 grit paper just to take off the high spots. And once we're close, and we can run our fingers over it, once we're close, we'll go ahead and switch over to our 150 grit sandpaper. And as I said, you can sand this all the way up to, I'd say, about 320 grit. Now, as I run my hand over that, I can still feel it. I'm going to switch out to the 120 now. I mean 150, because we want to take off less. When you start to see the outline of the damage, you're going to stop sanding in that spot. Because if you keep on going, you're going to make the repair area bigger. So we got that one. Now let's Go back up here to this one. We're going to do the same thing. Back with our 150 grit. Work in very small circles. You can work with the grain. All we're looking to do is level this out now. That's it. There we go. And touch that right in there. This is very, very small amounts of Bondo I'm putting in here. I mean, incredibly small amount of Bondo. And to tell you the truth, if this wasn't, I mean, if this was a leg that we were doing touch up on for a customer, given its location on the table, I wouldn't even go this far. I am only going this far for video purposes. Here, take that excess off. Let that dry. We'll sand that out one last time. And then we'll do these two touch-ups. These two, and then we'll catch these three. Okay, we're about there now. We're going to go ahead and take our 150 grit sandpaper again. We're going to catch this last little bit. Don't have much here to do. And I mean, I am just barely sanding on this. These two areas are filled in now. Now they're ready for color. We'll grab our second sheet of paper. And the first thing I'm going to need, like I said, since I don't have white Blendall powders, first thing we're going to use is this glaze. Get your hands on white Blendall powder. It's less messy to use than this. We're going to grab us one of our little Jello shot glasses and shake this up. We don't need a ton of white, but we need some. So we'll set that here. Next thing we're going to need is going to be some clear lacquer. And for this, you know what? For mixing purposes, we're going to use some gloss from Mohawk. Don't need a lot. There we go. There's our toners. Here are our Blendall powders. Now, I have black. This is what I have. I have black Blendall powders from Mohawk. I have burnt sienna. I have medium maple, okay? And then I have white. I also have Van Dyke Brown. And the Van Dyke Brown, believe it or not, I could take this Van Dyke Brown and just lighten it up a little bit, and you know what? I would be spot on with this color, but that kind of takes all the fun out of this, doesn't it? So we're not going to use Van Dyke Brown. Let's go ahead and open up our Blendall powders. We're going to go about this the hard way, and we're going to mix this color from scratch using other colors. Again, if you want to learn color theory and how to figure out what colors this color consists of, check out that video on color theory. It'll tell you how to mix this stuff pretty easily. Now, let's tilt you in, and I can't get you quite as tight of a shot on this because I want to catch both the touch-up and the mixings here, okay? So I got a little bit of Blendall powders still on my my paintbrush, and I'm just going into this clear right here, loosening up my bristles. It's one of the nice things about working with lacquer. The lacquer thinner that's suspended in the lacquer, it'll loosen right back up. So here we go. We're going to put some clear down, grab a bit of white, throw that in there. Now that's way too bright. So we know we need to darken this up a bit. Let's grab some black and we'll gray this out. Here's our gray. Add a bit more clear. This stuff dries very fast. All right, that's still a bit on the light side. Let's darken it up some more. A little more. Add a bit more clear. And at any point in time, you can stop and you can just drop in a little bit of color right here and see, okay, well, how close am I? And then wipe it a little bit and say, okay, well, how close am I? Well, that's way too gray. So we want to darken this up a bit. That gray is too light that I just put on there. So we're going to darken this up a bit. And then to lighten it back out, I'm actually going to a little bit more black. A little bit of white goes a long way. All right, that looks pretty good. Now, we got to get there's some earth tones in this, so that's why I have these other two. I have my medium maple and I have my burnt sienna. Yeah, burnt sienna. These are my earth tones that I need to achieve this color brown. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to get a little bit of this burnt sienna, which has a bit of a red hue to it. We're going to drop that in, and instantly I can see that my color here is a lot closer now to that. So grab a little bit more clear, a hint more of this burnt sienna. Red that out a little bit more burnt sienna. And now we're going to lighten it even more by grabbing some of this medium maple. A little more. And what we're doing is we're sneaking up on this color. Again, at any point in time, you can always stop, get a little bit on your brush, and drop it in. Now, we're still a bit dark right now for what this is. We'll take just a touch of white. Remember, a little bit of white goes a long way. A little bit more earth tones. A little bit more. A little bit of clear. And I'll tell you, whatever color you mix up down here, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, that looks too light. I can promise you it's not too light. If anything, it's going to be too dark. When you actually go to apply it, it's going to be too dark. So let's zoom in now. Tilt up. And start dropping this color on. Now, you can drop the color on and then you can take your finger and just kind of smear it just over that Bondo. Okay? Grab you a little bit more color. Do it again. And then, again, just smear it. Just working right over the top of that Bondo. Any of our light areas, we're just going to drop in a little bit of color. There we go. Come around here to the top. And our brush is kind of dry right now, and that's good. We're just moving this color around over the top of the Bondo now. And just evening it out so that we don't have any lumps or anything. There, we've got that. Grab a little bit more clear, thin this out, thin our color out a little bit, and now we're going to go over here to the top. Tilt you up a little bit. Same thing, just drop in the color. We're going to drop it in right over our Bondo. Trying not to go beyond the Bondo. Now, I'll give you a pro tip here. One thing that you can do, now we've got those two covered up now. This one right here is covered up. This one right here is covered up, okay? What you can do is you can take your finger, clear off all this garbage off your finger, and take your finger and just kind of smear into the surrounding area just to kind of make that color blend in with the surrounding colors. See? There's our repair. There's our repair. But we're not quite done yet. So there's our repairs. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab some of this Deft. Since this is actually a satin, this is Deft satin, and this is actually a flat finish on here. I couldn't get my hands on flat. Deft makes flat, but Home Depot was just out of stock on it. The first thing we're going to do is shake up our rattle can, test the nozzle, make sure it's not going to spit and sputter. And then you want to get about 10 to 12 inches away, maybe 14 inches away, and then just give it light little spritzes. Okay? Same thing back over here. And all we want to do is just put a light little, just a mist on this. And we're going to build up a finish, and we're going to build up on top of here. So we got that one, and within just a few seconds, especially if you come back with a fan or, you know, here's a piece of sandpaper, you can just fan it dry. This stuff does not take long at all to dry. And we'll do it again. We're going to hit this down again. Same thing up here at the top. And then we'll give that a couple of minutes. Now this second time I went a little heavier on the lacquer, and that's fine. The one thing you don't want to do is get right up on it and spray, because you'll end up with a big puddle of lacquer. That's what we don't want. And the further back you pull away from it, and the more, you know, when you go to spray it, especially on flat finishes, the further back away from it you are when you go to spray it, the more it's going to blend in to the surrounding areas. All right, so that's about dry. Let's do it again. And we're going to give this probably 4, maybe 5 spritzes even, maybe even 6. All right, there we go. We'll dry that off. Let's tighten up here on the, as you can see, those repairs are becoming less and less noticeable. Our sheen is starting to match. Our color is off maybe just a hint, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. But what we can do, let's say you mixed up a little bit on the light side. Let's say your repair was just a little on the light side. That's when your toners are going to come in. And again, same thing. Shake up your can. Get about a few inches back, and we're just going to lightly tone those areas and kind of blend that in. And what this is this is a color tinted lacquer. So as I'm spraying, it's very lightly toned, very lightly tinted, but as we spray it, what we're doing is we're darkening up the surrounding area to kind of bring it into the color of the repair. Give that a couple of minutes. We'll dry it off. And we'll hit it down again, going way back. Just give it a little light mist coat. Turn it, see how our repair looks. I wish I had some flat. I don't. Give that a little bit more of a coat. That's kind of blending in a bit better. But what we can do now, let's see what our repair looks like now. Let's zoom in. Can we find it? Oh, it's up higher. So there's our repair on the surface. There's our repair right in there. And as you can see, it's a lot less noticeable. If you were glancing at this, you wouldn't even see it. You'd never notice it. Same thing holds true with our repair on the side here. There's our repair. And it's a lot less noticeable, okay? Now, let's talk about that and those two. Typically what I would do for repairs like this, you know what? You can actually just go in, drop in with a Sharpie on scratches like this, especially on dark colors. And you can buy Sharpies in all kinds of different colors. You can get them in brown, definitely, okay? So what we'll do is we'll just take our Sharpie and draw, assuming it will. Might have a little bit of a lacquer buildup on there right at the moment. All right, so we'll drop in a little bit of color here with a Sharpie, assuming my Sharpie is going to work for me. And again, all we're shooting for with this is to make it less noticeable. Drop a little bit of color in there, and then we'll come back and wipe it with our finger. And boom, it's pretty much disappeared. There's one of them. We'll do this on the side as well, okay? All we're looking to do is cover up that bright spot, the bright wood underneath. That's all we're really looking to do. So there's our Sharpie mark. Come back with our finger. Boom. That's disappeared. It's a whole lot less noticeable. Do you see our damage up here? Let's tighten up. There's our damage. There is our damage there. There is our scratch right there. And again, a whole lot less noticeable. Now, what do we do for that? Well, we're going to do one last little technique. We're going to do one last little technique with this. And I am going to go ahead and use our Van Dyke Brown. So we're going to take our clear satin, deft. Give it a little light spritz right over the top of it. I'm going to take our Van Dyke Brown, dip our finger, just the very tip of the finger in there, and get a little bit on our finger, okay? And then lightly come in and just drop a little bit of color right over the top of that. Take our deft, hit it again. And what we're doing is we're laying down a little bit of color here, or laying down a little bit of lacquer so that we can, so that it acts like glue. We're wanting this to act like glue. We blend it in with our finger. Again, same thing, a little bit more. Let that dry a little bit. We just want it to just barely be tacky. And all we're doing is dropping in color with the tip of our finger right on that area. One more time. We'll give it one more quick little bit. Let that dry a little bit. There we go. Work that in. You know what? Our lower repair, we can actually do the same thing. We can drop a little bit of this Van Dyke Brown right over the top of that lower repair. Okay. And then hit it with one last little spritz of lacquer. It's a little on the dark side, but you know what? I'd say that looks pretty good. Zoom in. There's our edge. There's where our damage was, right in there. And it's pretty much gone. That's Van Dyke Brown over the top of it. And again, that damage is pretty much gone. Now, one thing to keep in mind is, you know, the light source that you're seeing from the camera is different than the light source that, the direction, the angles of the light is different than what I'm looking at it. Now, as we can see there, if you're looking at this, and this is about a normal viewing distance where you guys are looking at this, is about a normal viewing distance for looking at a leg. And, you know, can you spot the damage from that distance? You know, I'm sure if we zoom way in, yeah, you'll be able to see it. But that's understanding the limitations of touch-up work, is that it's really difficult. That's one of the limitations with touch-up work, is that it's really, really difficult to make damage disappear. The damage is there. And the best you can ever hope for with this is to make it less noticeable. Try to confine your repairs to very small areas, just to the area of damage. And, you know, you should be able to at least touch it up to the point where nobody's would ever be able to see it. Unless you point it out to them, hey, there's damage right there. They're not going to be able to see it. And it's going to take quite a bit of practice for anyone to be able to get to this point. All right. So that's how to do. All right, so that's how to use the Blendall powders and do the touch-up on your table. Again, if you're refinishing your table and you've already got it all stripped down, you're going to use these techniques to fill in the gouges on your table, okay? Dents and dings are going to be handled differently, and I'll address that in the next video. But for touch-up work, this is how it's done. There are other products that you can use to fill in. Mohawk puts out some burn-in wax sticks. There's a few other things that you can use, but for the most part, Bondo is probably the easiest thing to get your hands on, and it's the easiest stuff to work with. Really easy to carve. It's really easy. It's easy to color over. I mean, that's why they use it on cars. Anyway, so that's touch-up work. Again, if you're refinishing your table completely from scratch. You've stripped everything down. After you've stripped everything down and you've washed everything down, sanded everything, the next thing is going to be to use these techniques to fill in all the dents and dings, color it over the exact same color. You're going to try to match the color of the raw wood or wood that has a lens coat of sealer already applied to it. That's the color that you're looking to match. And then once you're done with all of your repairs and you start doing your top coats, well, you're going to mix up toners. Well, just like this brown cherry, you're going to want to mix up a tinted lacquer to spray onto your table so that all of the parts end up being the same tonal value. They all look the same color. They all look the same shade of that color. And then finally you go over it with your progressive coats of top coat. Anyway, so that's going to be handled in another video. I'll get more in depth with that. And this is touch up, and you can use this for already finished out pieces just like this. So listen, while I've got you, I wanted to say thank you to everybody that has donated to the channel. I have a link down below to a PayPal donation button for the channel. If you find, and I know a lot of my other videos that I have on the how-tos with pool tables has actually saved a lot of people a buttload of money doing their own pool table work. And if you find that these videos are of value, then I would encourage you to click on that link down below and donate to this channel. Look, I make significantly less money doing these videos than what I do actually going out and doing pool table service work. And the little bit of money that I make on YouTube, yeah, it helps, but it doesn't pay the bills. It definitely hasn't paid for the camera equipment. It hasn't paid for the computer equipment that it takes to edit these videos, especially in 4K, which is what we're doing now, is all 4K. And it doesn't pay for the materials that I need to do this stuff. So if you can, and if you find value in the work that I do and the information that I'm imparting to everyone out there, if you could see your way to donating to the channel and help keep us going, that would be very much appreciated. As always, I encourage you to like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and write me some comments down below. These are the things that actually trigger the YouTube algorithms to make the channel more popular. The more likes that the videos get, the more people are engaged with the videos, the more YouTube figures, hey, we need to put this video out in front of other people. So I encourage you to hit the like button, the subscribe button, write me some comments down below. And as always, I will leave Amazon links down below for all of the products that I use. Probably not the Mohawk products in this one, maybe, if I can find them. But for all of the pool table equipment, the pool table tools that I use, all of the tools I use for doing pool tables in general, I'll leave links down below for that. Anyway, you guys take care. We'll catch you on the next video, and forgive me for being so long-winded. Oh, one last thing. The astute amongst you may have already figured out, this boy's got some train tracks in his mouth now. How you like that? Got me some train tracks. You guys have been a big inspiration for me my desire to be better and present better on camera has been an inspiration for me to go out and get braces. And this is supposed to be at least about a 2-year journey for me, and I just got them at end of February. So I've had them actually, I'm sorry, I got them at the beginning of March. So I've had them just a little over a month now, and it's an interesting experience. So I want to thank you guys for being part of this channel and for, well, just being great guys. Anyway, we'll catch you on the next video, and y'all take care.